Is there a 3-and-D wing on the market that could transform the New York Knicks season? We talk about it now with the cap god himself, Jeremy Cohen.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Gavin Schall, your Saturday host of the Locked On NBA podcast, and of course, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. This is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, give you the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 days a week. That's right. You could be an everydayer and join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing on both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team every single day. And your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. That's right. We're introducing the Locked On Knicks daily newsletter, the one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter to get writing from Alex and I, our team of national writers here at Locked On, and of course, Josh Lloyd with the latest and greatest in fantasy basketball. All right, guys, on today's bonus episode of the Locked On Knicks podcast, I'm just throwing some names at Jeremy. This is kind of fun. We had 10 extra minutes. I said, you know what? Let me just throw some names at you, buddy, and see what you think. And we'll find out if any of the guys I'm most interested in are actually feasible for the New York Knicks to go and acquire. We get into it right now with Jeremy. Did you have one or two more names that you're really passionate about? Because if not, I'll throw you a couple of names just before we wrap up here.
Not a ton of names. The one other thing that I want to say about Mitch that
Yeah.
you inspired that I hadn't even really
Sure.
considered before is,
Mm-hmm.
sure, there's always been the health acclimation perspective,
Yeah.
but then it's how is Mitch getting healthy to acclimate himself back on the court for the first time in a really long time, but also we saw for healthy players how long it took this starting five and some of the bench players to find continuity. So finding your footing from injury and your place in on the team and having all that be ready in what will be probably a 25 at best game sample size, assuming no setbacks whatsoever, and then playoff time rolls around, is that putting him in the best position to succeed? Whereas, of course, it takes time to integrate other players, but if they're healthy, that's one less factor they have to consider because they're already conditioned. But that was something that I just hadn't thought of until you prompted that. So, but thank you. I don't have other names at the moment, so hit me with what you got.
Yeah, I'll say real quick. I've weirdly, as someone who considers themselves pessimistic in other aspects of life, I've become an irrational optimist with the Knicks and their injuries. And last year, we did all these episodes on like, oh, different lineups when Julius Randle comes back. I was like, oh, the depth is amazing. You put up this all defense lineup and this all offense lineup, and I felt like even as I was doing that in the back of my head, people were watching, and it was just like the "does he know" meme. Like, yeah, man, it's never gonna happen. Like he's not coming back. And I feel the same way with Mitchell Robinson as you're like calmly and logically talking through it. Like I just get this feeling, which is like to the point of you making that trade, this is probably just so many things that have to come together to get the best case scenario version of him. And if they all do, then it's worth it. But it's just so many different things. But you know what? I'm going to keep living in Disneyland. I'll let the rationalists like you and Leon Rose make the real decisions for this team while I have fun in my own deranged world. But I'll keep this to just, I had a bunch of names here. I'll keep it to a couple because we're going to do a bunch more episodes on it. You're going to do a bunch more episodes on it leading up to the deadline. But I'm wondering what you think of the feasibility of the Knicks going and getting Keon Ellis, because Alex and I did an episode yesterday, like talking through like, all right, does the De'Aaron Fox thing affect the Knicks at all? And like, if Sacramento were to go like, all right, like we're trading Fox, like we're going to break this team apart. I don't know if I would go that direction given like whatever they went 16 years without the playoffs, but let's just say they go that direction. Keon Ellis, obviously like on a great contract right now, like functionally like 2 years, $5 million team option next season. I wonder if the Knicks would have enough, given that like Oklahoma City, if they wanted to, could very casually be like, that's someone that could play 10 minutes for us. Here's 2 first-round picks. We'll blow anything the Knicks could offer out of the water. The trade I proposed to Alex on the pod last night was Jericho Sims, Tyler Kolek, and the Washington pick for Keon Ellis. I'm curious your thoughts on that value proposition, because Ellis, to me, The only thing lacking there is size. Like I wish if he was 6'6", 6'7", I mean, maybe he wouldn't be gettable at that point. It'd really be a no-brainer, but just an elite 3-point shooter in cleaning the glasses, points per shot attempt metric. He's 99th percentile in the NBA, just absurdly efficient, high-level defender. I don't think it's any coincidence that the Kings turned their season around when they started playing him. Like I just feel like he's totally additive and kind of just a rich man's Landry Shamet in every sense. So he's someone I think could actually maybe swing the dial a little bit for this team.
I think he's a great option. I've really enjoyed his game. Of course, Jalen Brunson. If you just watch Keon Ellis when he plays Jalen Brunson,
well, that's the beauty of it. He never has to play Jalen Brunson again.
Exactly, and the Knicks don't really practice that much, so he doesn't have
to.
Play
Psychologically, he'll be
great. You're safe. It's okay, Keon.
He'll never even see Jalen. We'll put blinders on him. But
I like him as an option.
Sure.
The Kings are in such a weird spot where he's earning so little and he's not paid, to your point, until the season after next. And at that point, if I'm the Kings, who am I spending money on? So I might as well retain that talent. If he were earning more, if he were, say, like a Malik Monk type salary and the Kings go into a fire sale, I could understand him going somewhere. But because of, it's similar with Deuce, where he's valuable, but where are you getting the level of compensation for him? Because that extra year probably does benefit a team. Like in this case, it were the Thunder that were acquiring him. The offer that they give is probably going to be better than Tyler Kolek and 2 high seconds, and then the expiring salary of Jericho Sims, who would be really more of a tanking player. Maybe they would bring him back, but if anything, it'd be a minimum salary. They could always just sign him away in the offseason if they really wanted to go that route. So I like him a lot in Keon Ellis. I don't see the Kings moving him unless it's for such a large amount that a team that has more than the Knicks do gets him. I also don't think he's going to move the needle in a significant way of the Kings keeping their draft pick and it not going to the Hawks. So if it's a player who isn't getting a ton of on-ball reps and is really more of an off-ball player, nice complementary player, if he's not hurting you, but you still maybe want to try again next year, it's a soft reset for the Kings. But we'll see what they're up to. I mean, I gather at this point, De'Aaron Fox is gone. I guess it's just a question of, do they rip the whole Band-Aid off? And if they do, is Keon Ellis the type of player where they're comfortable building with him for the next few years? And if he works out on their timeline, great. And if he doesn't, they can trade him to another team, when he's on a larger salary instead.
Yeah, totally fair. I think it's one of those things where if I was being reasonable, I said, or if I proposed this to Matt George, our Locked On Kings host, like, would he laugh in my face? And he might laugh a little bit. That is a bad sign. All right, two Grizzlies for you next. Jay Huff and someone I've heard you talk about, Jake LaRavia, both good shooters. Huff obviously is a big 40% from three, nearly 3 blocks per 40 minutes. Don't really see a path forward for him playing in Memphis. That's probably one that only makes sense if you're trading off Precious Achiuwa, Mitchell Robinson, either in the same deal or a separate deal. But I just kind of like the outline of that type of player. And LaRavia is someone who is sort of the baseline template of what I would want for the Knicks, just a really well-rounded wing who can shoot. And I think does not take a lot off the table in terms of like a basketball IQ player, like being someone who's willing and able to make the extra pass consistently. I've just kind of been a fan of both those two from afar. And I sort of want to steal some of Memphis's patent depth, but how much have you explored those two guys?
A bit. LaRavia more than Huff. So with Huff, it's kind of a question of where is he finding the minutes, especially if you do have Mitchell Robinson back and healthy and you've got Precious Achiuwa there. Where is Tom Thibodeau going to say, I want Jay Huff to play over these players, especially when you have Karl Anthony Towns? They do. Memphis, it feels like every single season needs to consolidate and then just doesn't. Maybe they do it at the deadline. Maybe they find ways to shorten their lineup a bit. But Jay Huff to me feels like a regular season guy who then won't see any time in the playoffs. Ideally, if I'm the Knicks, I'm looking at who can be help in the regular season, but also if I need to call on them on the playoffs, and I very well may, who can I trust a bit more there? As for LaRavia, also in that category of maybe can be kind of like a relief pitcher that a baseball team is getting at the deadline to extend their starting rotation. Maybe it's a kind of a long arm from the pen. But LaRavia, to me, I think the reason I have liked him is what he provides on paper is great. From a size perspective, he's young, 6'8" forward. He grades out well from an efficiency standpoint. It's just, can he put it all together in a compelling way? He's an unrestricted free agent going into next year, which is fine, because if you were to acquire him, you'd have his bird rights. But the player that you'd probably have to be trading here, unless you're aggregating a couple different salaries, and it's hard to get to his number, is probably Precious Achiuwa, or it's Mitchell Robinson, and you're getting LaRavia and some other salary that all fits in. But something about that doesn't click for me, doesn't pass the smell test. And again, I think that the idea of LaRavia is better than who he is. The Knicks typically like to have higher floor players than what LaRavia has provided. If they wanted someone like him, they could always go after him in the offseason. It'd probably mean the taxpayer mid-level exception, which would hard cap them at that second apron. So that could be a problem, but also whether it's a self-imposed hard cap for the Knicks or they trigger it with an exception, probably won't impact them too greatly. But then it goes back to the other point. You like Mitch, you like Precious. If you want LaRavia, something's got to give.
Right, guys, before we wrap this one up, I wanted to ask about a certain former top 5 pick just now coming back from injury, and if he could be the low-key addition that could propel the Knicks to genuine title contention. We talk about it next on Locked On Knicks. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive with Robinhood Gold. Your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you can also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average. Savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Gold Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. We also want to tell you about our good friends over at Gametime. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a little bit of a headache. But with Gametime Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Gametime Picks, the app does all the hard work for you, curates the best deals, so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Gametime Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat at the Childish Gambino concert this past summer, and I couldn't believe the value. It was a steal. The seat view feature is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat will look like in the venue. It's so reassuring. And the best part, you're covered with Gametime's lowest price guaranteed. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund you 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Yeah. All right. And then maybe same deal here, but I'm wondering if this team, given their injury issues, would have some Jericho Sims interest. Dante Exum is someone I've liked since his draft. Obviously, it did not go very well for him in Utah. Went over to Europe, blew up there, played a couple years. Last season, while dealing with some injury issues, I thought he played some really good basketball for Dallas. Shot 49% from three. Granted, on only 2 attempts per game in 20 minutes a game. So you can question how much that translates. Has always been a solid defender. I like his height. I like his shooting. Like I guess I'm really looking for Landry Shamet upgrades, and I think he would qualify. Only makes let me say, I wrote down here, $3 million. He's expiring. Is he someone who piques your interest, like possibly straight up for Jericho Sims with some seconds thrown in as a sweetener? And I also should note he's been injured for a long time. As of 24 hours ago, was listed as a doubtful on Dallas's injury report. So it seems like he's going to be healthy and come back.
I like the idea of Exum in a multi-team trade where, because
Mhm.
especially with the Derek Lively injury, getting
Yeah.
Jericho Sims to Dallas makes a whole lot of sense. Um, moving money out where you can, I think that could certainly be beneficial if you're looking to target someone in the buyout market. You don't need to create not cap space. You don't need to create apron space for them, but it certainly helps. The other thing that the Knicks could do if they create more apron space than just the prorated minimum is they could actually go out and use the portion of the taxpayer mid-level exception they have this year. They could offer more to a player than any other team might be able to likely provide. Uh, so with that being said, Dante Exum to me is better to a third team than he probably is to the Knicks. It's also the salary component where, to your point, he's earning $3.15 million.
Mhm.
Jericho Sims is earning just over two. So you got to figure out how to bridge the gap between Sims and Exum. You can't move Landry Shamet, not because about like don't want to, can't
Yeah.
physically. There's
Not Shannon. Yeah. Sorry.
right. I know.
Yeah.
I quit this team. I'm not following anymore.
I'm a
Uh,
Mavs fan now. Yeah.
right. Right. You can't move Huck Porty as part of it. At least I don't believe. It might be just shy. I'd have to crunch the numbers, but
Sure.
maybe you do that. But then it's the whole thing of, well, you're greasing the wheels and you're getting where you need to, but then what are you losing potentially on the back end?
Mhm.
And if Mitchell Robinson's hurt, the Knicks have liked having three centers that they can trust. And so it's harder to do that when one of those players is a little more of a DNP. So I like Exum. I don't want to move Kolek for him. I don't want to move Dadier for him to make those salaries work. So it's harder for the Knicks to get to that point. Then we're talking more about, is it a 4-team deal? And it feels like it then becomes too complicated for such a low stakes
Mhm.
move, unless you're helping out other teams. But the Knicks and the Mavs aren't really in the financial position where they can each do that. And the Mavs are so close to the first apron because they're hard capped there from the Clay Thompson trade, that the margins are so slim that they might be able to just make it work, but something's not fitting in right in my mind.
All right, dude, I could do this with you for 2 hours. Unfortunately, you have a job. I have a
Fortunately,
dog
I
I need
do.
to get back to. So, on that happy note, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for taking the time. I assume everyone knows, but just in case they don't, can you tell everyone where they can find all your great work leading up to the trade deadline and beyond?
Of course. You can find me at Knicks Film School. You can find me Twitter at The Coincidence. We'll be doing another episode of Capitals Everything Around Me Cream next week, the day before the trade deadline. We'll be doing a trade deadline live stream if that's of interest. I'm sure you guys are doing one as well. So hey, do both. You can multitask, folks. You can Knicks fans can cram 25 hours worth of content into 24 hours if they need to. So yeah, that's where you can find me. But thank you,
Uh,
Gavin. This was fantastic.
yeah, I had a blast, man. All right, he's Jeremy Cohen. I'm Gavin Schall. Tune in for more on Knicks Film School and Locked On Knicks.